Before we get into this week's episode of CNT, I want to give a quick thank you to our sponsors. The Ever Aquasarts have been sponsoring me for all of 2020, and I just want to thank them for that. They have been with me through the thick and the thin, and they have been very kind to me. They are the single A affiliation of the Seattle Mariners and are doing a lot to help the community. And I highly recommend supporting them and giving them a follow on Instagram at Ever Aquasarts. Also, check them out at Funko Field. Maybe go to a game or two. Hi, I'm your host, Justin Yomot, and this is the CNC Podcast. Today, I have Thomas from the Northside Report, formerly known as the Cubs Wave, here to talk about the first round of the MLB Draft.
How's it going, everyone? Happy to be here.
So, we're going to be giving our grades for the first round of the draft and saying why we think that's where they are at. So, do you want to start out with your first round pick grade?
Yeah, are we starting at the very top, number one overall?
Yeah, we'll work our way down.
Alright, so the Detroit Tigers took Spencer Torkelson, first baseman out of Arizona State. Kid's got a lot of power, and I'd have to grade it as an A. He was my number one and a lot of other people's number one. And it would have been hard for the Tigers to mess that up. Now, they could have went with a couple other guys, I guess, maybe Austin Martin, but overall, that's a guy that in Spencer you'd think will get to the big leagues fairly quickly and is going to be a top prospect in their system.
I fully agree. I feel like the Tigers really they need almost everything, but I feel like snagging a nice first baseman is the first step to rebuilding. I graded it an A+. I feel like he was the best player in the draft, and anywhere he was taken would have been an A+.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go with my second round. The Orioles took Heston Kjerstad. I apologize if I mispronounce his name. He's an outfielder, and I rated it a B+. Like, the Orioles need everything, and he's a solid prospect, but I feel like there were better players they could have went with. But I still think it was a good pick, and I'd give it a B+.
I'll probably give it a B-. I like the player, but he was probably going to fall towards the lower part of top 10 and maybe even sneak into the teens. He has tremendous power. He has the most power in the draft as a left-handed hitter. So like I said, I can't argue with the player, but they definitely didn't take the best available player, at least according to a lot of the boards that we saw.
Yeah. What did you rate the third pick from the Marlins?
The Marlins took Max Meyer, righty, out of Minnesota. And I actually go to Minnesota, and Max Meyer grew up like 10 minutes from me. He actually knocked out my high school. I didn't play high school baseball, but in the championship, they knocked out my high school. Max Meyer pitched well. This was probably the biggest shock of the draft, especially early on. I mean, Max probably wasn't going to go outside of the top 10, maybe even the top 5. But once again, kind of like Baltimore, Miami took their guy who they wanted. I'll give it a C just because of the value wasn't that good. But the thing is he's a great pitcher. I've seen him in real life pitch, and he's coming out of Minnesota along with a 90-mile-an-hour slider. So once again, like Herkstead, I like the player, but the value wasn't there.
I went with a D+. Like, he's a good player, and I think he'll be good, but I feel like the Marlins might have reached a little bit, and I feel like their pitching is probably their best suit, and if they really want to rebuild, I feel like they should not have gone with pitching. And so I went with a D+. I feel like they reached.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth pick, the Royals took Asa Lacy, left-hander. I gave it an A-. I feel like the Royals needed pitching. They went out and got someone who is good and can be good and really help the team. And I mean, it's not an A or an A+, but like I feel like it does deserve to be an A-. It was a pretty good pick.
I'll give it an A just because I think that he should have went to Miami. I mean, if they were going to take a pitcher, I thought that would be the guy they were going to take. Also, Baltimore should have been deciding Lacy, and then the next pick, Austin Martin.
Yeah.
And I just think that for Miami, both Miami and Baltimore, to lose or not lose out, but not take Lacy, I mean, it gives Kansas City great value. They took the best player, best pitcher available, so I'll give it an A.
Yeah. For the Blue Jays, they took Austin Martin, shortstop. Now, I think the player himself is an A plus, but I graded this pick at an A minus, as they already have Bo Betcher at shortstop, and we don't know if either of them could be dominant at second base. So I give an A minus. I feel like yes, he's a great player, but I feel like going down and getting a different position would have been better for them.
I'm gonna give it an A plus actually, just because when I look at the MLB draft, a lot of it is very long term based, and it's kind of like the Cubs. Like even though they took a shortstop, I mean, and like the Blue Jays did here, you don't really know how these guys are gonna pan out. If anything, they might be trade bait. And for a guy that possibly could have went number 1 overall, Austin Martin, if not, he shouldn't have gone past 2 or 3. Like I said, it should have been between Martin and Lacy for that second pick. So I'll give it an A plus because I think Toronto just took the best available player,
Yeah.
which is something you're supposed to do in the MLB draft.
Yeah, that was the hardest one for me to have to grade.
hmm
What did you think of the Mariners pick at 6?
Emerson Hancock, I don't know too much about him honestly. He's the right-handed pitcher out of Georgia, but it makes sense. I mean, he is 21 years old, and I think that he can, help to. I mean, the Mariners have had issues pitching for a while ever since Felix Hernandez kind of hasn't been so great. So I'll give it an A minus, I guess. I just don't know too much about the player. I know he's really good though.
Yeah, I give it an A as like I'm a Cubs fan, but I moved to Seattle when I was young, so I also like the Mariners. So I've seen them play, and what they really need to be able to be relevant and contend is pitching. They have good young prospects at all aspects of the field, but they really need pitching. So that was a great pick by them.
hmm
Now the Pirates took Nick Gonzalez, shortstop. I give it a B plus. I mean, I don't really know what to say. It was a good pick, but I feel like it could have been better, but it was good. I gave it a B plus.
I'll give this an A minus. I like the player a lot. He's out of New Mexico State. He had over 1.3, I think, or 1.25 OPS, and he's a tremendous contact hitter. And the other thing is Pittsburgh doesn't really have a whole lot in their infield besides Josh Bell, so I like the pick.
Mhm. Do you want to do 9 and 10, and then I can do 11 and 12?
Sure, I think we're on 8 and 9, right?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Okay. So number 8 was the San Diego Padres taking outfielder Robert Hassel. This was Hassel was the first high schooler taken in the draft, and I like this pick a lot. I think that being the first high schooler, kind of, I don't know if he should have been the first high schooler, but I'll give it a B plus. He hit 14 homers as a junior and batted 423. Obviously, that's high school stats, but anytime you're the first high schooler, it's probably a good sign. And then right after that, the Rockies took Zach Veen, and he as well is an outfielder. And let's see here, he was taken out of Spruce Creek High School. I'll give this one. Um, I'll give it an A minus. I think that it's a good player, but I'm not so sure how much Colorado needed that. I think that their pitching has been pretty bad recently, and there were a couple guys on the board that you'll get into. In these next 2 picks, I think they probably should have taken one of those guys.
So the Angels took Reed Deters at left-handed pitcher. Now the Angels, all they need is pitching, so I give it an A plus. He was probably, in my opinion, the best pitcher who was left on the board. They hit it out of the park. Great pick. I feel like that Reed should have been maybe top 7, but a great pick. And then the White Sox took Garrett Crutchett, left-handed pitcher. I gave that a B. I mean, he's good, but I feel like there were better pitchers out there they could have took.
Mhm. All right. So then the next pick was the Reds taking outfielder Austin Hendrick. So the third outfielder out of high school, and I guess I'll give it an A, because he's a product just outside of Pittsburgh, close to Cincinnati, and even though he's a little bit older for his class, he's one of the better players, and he's, according to scouts, a more projectable hitter in high school, in this high school class. So teams have a good sense of kind of what they're getting. And then 13th overall, the San Francisco Giants took the first catcher, Patrick Bailey out of NC State. And I think this was maybe a little bit too early for catcher, but the thing is with I'm not sure what their other prospects look like at the position, but with Buster Posey getting a little bit older, it may make sense for them to do this. Like I said, though, I think it was a little bit early. I probably would have taken another position, so I'll give it a C.
I gave it a D minus. He's okay. Like I, he was the best catcher available, but I feel like Buster Posey's still functional. He's not the best. They should have waited a year and then gotten someone better in next year's draft. Like I feel like that was the second worst pick of the whole draft.
Yeah, I didn't like that pick.
And then Rangers took Justin Forsythe, second baseman. I give it a D plus. He's good, but I don't think he'll be very good. They reached shouldn't have taken him. Should have taken someone else like Ed Howard. I feel like would have been better for them.
Mhm.
And then the Phillies took Mick Abel, right-handed pitcher, C plus, average pick, pretty good. And then I think we both want to give our opinions on the Nets pick because we both are Cubs fans.
Yeah, so I give the Cubs pick an A plus, and even though it's probably biased, but they took the best shortstop prospect in the whole draft. I think they got good value with him, even though he's out of high school. I mean, he's a local kid, and I mean, I haven't seen anything bad about this kid, on or off the field, and it gives me every reason to believe that he's going to be with the team when he gets called up, or as tremendous trade bait, if the Cubs going to get a deal done in the next couple of years. And like I said before, even though Nico Horner and Javi Baez are hopefully going to control the middle infield, you can never have enough prospects, no matter what the position. Just especially for a club that has a bottom 10, um, farm system. Now that a lot of guys have been called up, so currently, I mean, you restock some of that value, and he can hit the ball, he can field. I mean, it's just everyone that's from Illinois that's direct messaged me saying they've seen him play. I mean, there's flashes of Javi Baez in the field, so I mean, anytime I hear that, I get excited. Obviously, it's still early. He's probably 3 to 4 years away, in my opinion. Probably more 3. But I mean, you can't argue with the talent that the Cubs got, especially in the middle of the draft.
In my opinion, I think Ed Howard should have been a top 5 pick. I feel like only because he was coming out of high school is why he fell this far. I would have given it an A plus, but I feel like you said, Nico and Baez are controlling. Oh, the Cubs want them to control the middle field, and like you're saying, 3 years, like it might coincide and might eat up a few years of him, and that's why I went with an A instead of an A plus. But definitely got one of the best players in the draft at a very low pick, and was probably,
Mhm.
in my opinion, the steal of the draft.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what a lot of people were saying too.
Yeah, and then the
Yeah,
next pick I think is the worst pick of the whole first round. Red Sox took Nick Yorkie at from second base. I gave it an F. They have Devers. He's not that good. Probably, in my opinion, should have been a late second round, only third round pick. Instead, he went mid first round to a team that didn't really need a second baseman. I hated this pick. Worst pick in the first round, in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't like this pick either. The other thing with him is that he had shoulder surgery on his throwing arm, which kept him out of defense last year, and he was just designated hitting. And when you're doing that out of high school, I mean, you need to develop your game obviously every year, but especially coming out of high school, I mean, you need to have practice and like I guess that is a big warning sign. And I didn't really like the pick either. I think he should have went later just because of the injury concern.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for listening to this episode of CNC. Make sure to be on the lookout for episode 2 and part 2 of this next week.